following prescribed is transcribed.
Good evening. I'm Jerry G. Bishop, and this is the famed split-level dungeon studio where many years ago, the legendary Svengoolie burst into television prominence. Even today, many fondly remember Svengoolie providing the same classic entertainment as such time-honored shows as Hello Larry, My Mother the Car, or Celebrity Pin Spotting. But then, one day, at his peak, Svengoolie simply dropped from sight. The rumors were many that he'd dyed his hair and changed his name to Phil Donahue, that he'd gone on to a rewarding career in motel management. No one knew for sure, and yet, one rumor still is whispered among an uneasy populace. What if there were the same situation as in the past with the son of Frankenstein, the son of Dracula, Sanford and Son? Could there exist somewhere, somehow, the son of Svengoolie?
Hey, Dad, can I borrow the keys to the hearse tonight?
Welcome to a slightly different episode of We Got Issues. I'm Paul.
I'm Mark.
I'm Mike.
And this issue of We Got Issues, we're going to talk about Svengoolie because I don't think enough people are, and if they have, it ain't been us. So we're going to go around the table a little bit, talk about our experience with Svengoolie. If you don't know who Svengoolie is, he's a horror host who's been around for almost as long as we have, and we've been around a while. Some of us longer than others. I think he started in the late 70s?
Yeah.
He took over the original. Yeah.
77, 78.
He's now on MeTV. He's probably the most famous horror host that has ever existed. I discovered him like Columbus discovered America. I discovered Sven about 1979 when the same guy that introduced Dungeons and Dragons to our group was doing the Mr. Roberts Neighborhood theme one day at school, and I'm like, "What the hell is that?" And he said, "You never see Mr. Roberts Neighborhood?" And he's telling me about it, so I made sure to tune in the next week, and I've been watching him ever since. Mark, why don't you?
Yeah, I remember. He was on WFLD channel 32.
Yep.
And so that had to be around 78. So I started watching him, but I remember one of my earliest memories of that is we had a little black and white television off the dining room, and I would watch Svengoolie and try to record their song every week. So I had this giant tape recorder up next to the television waiting for him and Doug Graves to do their song. And so everything was black and white for me at first.
Yeah.
So it was just a little black and white TV.
Yeah.
And
we
then I
recorded the whole show. Me and my little brother. We recorded the whole show.
Right. I tried, but any bits that I could grab, but definitely was the song. I wanted the song every week. And then another memory I have of it is, I did buy the glasses when he did the 3D glasses for Revenge of the Creature. And then I also have a weird memory of the Mole. Was it the Mole People? Yeah, the Mole People was one of my favorite movies. But in my head as a kid, it was a mummy movie. I don't know why, but I grew up thinking it was one of the versions of the Mummy. And so when I finally saw it rerun on a new Sven, I'm like, wait a minute. I have vague memories of this movie, but I guess it's not a mummy movie. But so for some reason, I had mixed it with Karloff's The Mummy.
Yeah.
So,
well, side note, Mr. Science Theater did a bang-up job with the Mole People.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
but
it's one of the best.
I think I've watched Sven since then. I haven't stopped watching him. So, and luckily got to meet him about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. So.
Yeah. I was there. We just didn't make it in.
Yeah.
We the crowd was just too much. Mike?
I don't really know when I started watching. It was in the 70s, obviously, and I was very young. But I used to like all the monster movies. I was really into the movie monsters. I had these little books. Yeah, there was called Movie Monsters, and it would tell you about Dracula,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. But yeah, I really liked Svengoolie and his little skits and stuff. Yeah, I remember Mr. Robert's Neighborhood. I think that was probably
Right.
the funniest one he ever did. Um, I'm trying to remember even what else.
We did the Empire Carpets commercial.
Oh, yeah.
right.
Vampire Carpets, I think, was the one that's always stood out to me
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a kid.
Yeah.
So many parodies. And the thing too is like I wasn't really into monster movies so much. I mean, my grandmother was a good Christian lady, but she loved watching her Friday night, Saturday night monster movies. So I watched a lot of them on there. I remember Killdozer scared the living hell out of me. And now as an adult, I watch it and I'm like, imagine a monster that all you got to do is step to the left and walk back behind it and you're fine. But no, it was terrifying as a little child. But then Svengoolie came along, and horror hosts were designed to buffer horror movies for kids in the 50s. So that's how I ended up falling in love with Sven.
And he had his really I loved his look back then. He had the green and he had the accent that he's since dropped now in the 2000s.
Yeah.
But I love Tombstone, the character. He had the floating head Tombstone character, who was sort of his foil, probably almost all through the 70s. It was mainly Tombstone was his foil, and so now he's got new foils. But although they brought Tombstone back a couple times, but
more Tombstone, Sven. If you're watching, more Tombstone for us old guys.
Yeah, and it's just amazing that from being a little local. So my fiance was from Oregon, and they had a horror host, and so there were horror hosts kind of local all over the country. And it's interesting that he now is nationwide, and I think that's kind of been a good and a bad thing for him to be nationwide.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit. We want to talk a little bit more about this, and then tonight's movie in particular, before we get into that. But
I was not a fan of scary movies, more modern ones, but I love the Universal ones, and I love the 50s monster movies. So Svengoolie was right up my alley.
Yeah.
Like, I was never a fan. I still not. I mean, when he shows the more modern ones, those tend to be the episodes I wait for the comedy bits.
Yeah.
But I really love the 50s sci-fi and the Universal monster movies.
Yeah.
So that's, as a kid, they were scary, but not too scary.
Yeah.
And so, but I think, he was on at night at first.
Yeah.
I remember it would be late at night, but then they switched him, I think, for more kid friendly to be. I remember watching in the afternoons too. He was. They moved him a couple times.
His time slot has went up and down. His entire series run.
Yeah.
I personally I liked the Saturday night, the late night thing, because now if it would have been Friday, it'd been a different story, because Dallas came on Friday. You were not taking my dad away from Dallas. So luckily, Saturday night was generally nothing. Everybody had parties to go to, and they did their own thing with their friends. Or like one of my favorite memories is like my dad and my Uncle Bill used to come over all the time, and him and my dad would sit in the living room. And my dad would just like, this is the dumbest thing I ever said. What the hell is this? You talk about how dumb Svengoolie was. Now, it's like, me and my kids would go over to their house for the weekends, and we'd watch Svengoolie, and he'd sit there and watch it with us and laugh with us. And now, like, my mom will call every once in a while. She's like, yeah, your dad wants to know, when does Svengoolie come on again? So, yeah.
I think part of what makes the show great is that, Rich Coase is just a great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he clearly is. And he is. When you meet him in person, he's just a very generous. When we saw him in Michigan City at the public library, we got there, I think, that morning. And we were about 50 or 60th back in line. And by the time he did the movie that he showed, the line was all the way wrapped around down
Yeah.
and he stayed. So he was only supposed to be there for about an hour or two after the movie.
Right.
He showed the movie, introduced it, basically did an episode for us. It was great. And, but he was only supposed to stay and sign, and he stayed the entire time till everybody who was in line,
Yeah.
got signed. So,
Well, Glenn and I showed up a little bit late, and we were pulling because he was at the Michigan City Library in Indiana, and I don't think they knew what they had
no.
because my God, there was nowhere to park. No, all the parking lots around the building, except in the streets everywhere, were packed.
Yeah.
So we ended up like walking about half a mile to the library to get in there. And then the line was like circling around, and I remember the librarians and stuff were just like, "Oh my God, oh my God, what
We've
is
never
this?"
had anything like this.
It's
Yeah.
like if only they check out books the way they check
Correct.
out Svengoolie.
Yeah. But yeah, he was super great. He was just as funny in person as he is on the show.
I think he's just genuinely like he knows that it's his fans that have made him who he is, and I think that kind of keeps him grounded. Maybe
Right.
A few times. I've never actually waited in line and met him, but I've seen him, at comic conventions.
Yeah.
And there was a horror film fest thing in Chicago where he had a table. And yeah, he always seemed really cool. I wish I had actually a chance to talk to him, but it's cool that he does all those signings and everything.
Well, tonight was kind of a special episode for me, which is what inspired me to want to do this video in the first place. Is tonight's movie was Dan Curtis's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Of all the horror stories ever told, one towers above them all. The original masterpiece of the macabre. The undeniable terror of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
It's one of my all-time favorites. It's one of the movies that I watched with my grandma, and I love this movie unironically. I think it's a well done movie. It's got all the Dan Curtis trappings right down to the soundtrack that like we were discussing. Like, does it use the same,
And he does.
Sure enough.
Yeah.
Like a lot of this music, like the oboe and the trumpet stuff carries over into like Trilogy of Terror and the Night Stalker and all that. But I absolutely love. I like Dracula, period. But this one just holds like a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it. I don't know. I think I saw it on YouTube a bunch of years ago.
Yeah.
And hadn't seen it in a while. And they made some interesting choices. I mean, and it makes you realize that Francis Ford Coppola wasn't the first to come up with. I mean, he pretty much, if you look at it, pretty much remade this movie.
Well, yeah. One of the interesting things about it is the whole thing where Dracula has found this woman who's the reincarnation of his love. Dan Curtis is credited as being the first person in movies to do that.
Correct.
Which he basically just lifted from a storyline he did in Dark Shadows a couple of years earlier. So, so the whole reincarnation thing comes from the Dark Shadows, but of course, obviously, it also comes from the Mummy and things like that. But it's just interesting. We have somebody.
We have a cat to chime in. Yes. Go away.
Iris will just get right up on the table.
Oh, she might. No, she probably won't. She'll come. Go on. But she's angry about the people that complain about Sven all the time. That's what she's angry.
Well, we'll get to them.
Yeah.
Me too, Miss Meow. Me too.
But yeah, I think that there were just some interesting choices in the movie. The showing the Demeter, there was a lot. There a lot they did they hit all the high points in a condensed condensing it. It didn't feel like they cut out anything from the book.
Well, yeah.
Except, I mean, they lose Renfield, but
yeah, they get rid of Renfield. They change a few things around. They switch the love interests and stuff like
they
that.
combined a couple of the boyfriends into one character.
And as we found out tonight, which is one of the best aspects of Sven's show is when he brings in information about the show you don't know, like, what actor was on Perry Mason and this kind of thing. Apparently, this was originally a 3-hour movie that they had to whittle down to like probably 180 minutes to make room for commercials and stuff back in the 70s. I want to know where the 3-hour cut is because I'm sure that movie is fantastic.
Yeah. And we were talking while we were watching the movie. It was interesting, given the budget of TV budget, what they couldn't have Dracula do. So the fact that Palance has to, and Palance is a physical actor anyway. He, I mean, remember his speech at the Oscars when he did the push-ups.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the fact that Dracula has to bust down a door, can't turn it, doesn't do mist, doesn't do a bat, doesn't do a wolf.
I get the impression Jack Palance broke down a lot of doors.
Yes, I would think so. Yes. So he's a very, and but I think it was the fact that they flip-flopped the love interest. It made his quote unquote revenge on everyone it made more sense than the Francis Ford Coppola's does. So it just makes sense that he was all about getting the twin of the love of his life in this movie. And then when they spoilers, when they destroy her, he kind of loses it. And so
there's a funny thing about that when he loses it. I don't know if you guys caught it, but when he goes to her coffin and she's laying in the coffin and he gets really mad and he flips the coffin, you can see the actress inside. Like, it's kind of funny to watch. I didn't see it the first time. I've only just recently, having rewatched it recently because I wanted to watch it to prepare for this. I mean, and it used to be on YouTube. Now it's on. I think I watched it on Tubi or Pluto or something like that. But yeah, it was like, wait a minute, it's like the dead don't.
Right. Well, and I think, I mean, this version also owes a bit to the Hammer Dracula version, which I think it's closer to. None of these are close as to the Bela Lugosi. It's kind of its own thing, and so. But yeah, they remind me there was aspects of the Hammer horror version that I kind of saw in this one, and so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it was really just lacking the Hammer girls, and it would have been and maybe Peter Cushing.
Correct.
I don't know what he was doing in '72, but maybe he was out of their pay grade.
It does make me want to go watch the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula though, because I do like that one despite criticizing it here tonight. I do like that one a lot. Well, minus Keanu Reeves.
I don't even mind him, dude. When you like a movie, you can criticize it, and you got every right to criticize something that you love. And I love that movie. Yeah, I will watch it, flaws and all. Same thing with this one. I'll watch this movie, flaws and all.
Yeah, and he's I think Palance gets the he's an angry Dracula.
Yeah,
he's an angry old man,
right?
And so but yeah, it's just a lot of fun watching it tonight. So and Sven had to reduce his number of skits, but I think in some ways that made them even better. So I mean, the song was shorter, which was always a disappointment to me, but it was a funny song.
Yeah.
And then he had Nostalgia Ferratu guest star, who's now one of the Sven Squad, who are kind of the new Tombstones for the 2000s. And so his bits are still funny. I mean, I know he's got to be 70 something years old. And so he's still, out there doing all of this. So that's amazing. Just amazing that he does all this production and even during COVID. I mean, if you go, for those that don't know, he was still able to film during COVID. They just created a special Sven cave, much like the Bat Cave, and he was able to film remotely. So, I mean, the only thing I haven't been able to do with him is I really want to make a trip to the Museum of Broadcast History in Chicago, where they have his original set. And so I really would like to go see that.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, we should do that. We should do that one time. So
well, while we're on the subject of the Sven Squad, maybe let's talk about the people that have maybe only recently discovered Sven, and since he became Me TV and got big, who don't quite get Sven,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of hate for the Sven Squad. If you don't know what the Sven Squad is, basically he has more characters on the show now because, like Mark said, he's got to be in his 70s. And let's face it, that's a lot of work for one guy to do. So they kind of add these new characters, and they're all great in their own way. Um, but there's too much hate for this group, and too much love for a certain member of the group.
I think so let's give a shout out. There's a couple of Facebook groups that are very pro Sven. They do a roll call every week, so everybody gets to report in.
That's fun.
There's one that talks about what is everyone eating. They have a live stream group that comments, and so those all tend to be very positive groups. But you'll constantly get, and you can tell it's someone who's new, complaining about not just the Sven Squad, complaining about the commercials that are run, complaining about claiming that, well, he just showed this movie 2 weeks ago, and complaining that it's the same reruns all the time.
Yeah.
And to the point where Rich Coase himself, because he does have his own Facebook, and a Svengoolie one, he will actually comment on there and tell people, no, we actually showed that 9 months ago.
Yeah.
You just don't remember.
You don't remember it properly.
And he's explained it 100 times on the show with him and Kerwin, who's another his rubber chick, his prehistoric chicken, another character on the show. He's explained that he has to show the movies a certain number of times per year. And so for me, the Sven Squad's been great because now that he's lengthened the show, you get old bits, you get new bits. Even if he did show the movie 9 months ago, more than likely you're going to get at least one or two new segments.
Well, next week, at the time of recording, next week they're doing Gargoyles, which is one of my all-time favorites. Maybe we'll do a show about that. Even though he's shown that movie so many times, there's bound to be bits that he puts in there that we haven't seen yet.
Correct.
So it's worth it just for that. Plus, Gargoyles is fantastic.
Yeah, and he knows that. He does, but part of it is he's showing it to people that they love those. I mean, we love those movies. I can watch Bride of Frankenstein a million times. Doesn't I have watched it that many times, and so. But the fact that he now has a crew that can add new skits makes it great. But boy, just people, like they are with everything now.
Yeah.
They've got to find ways to criticize, and everything from, like I said, everything from the commercials that MeTV runs to, because there were last week there was complaints there were too many commercials. Well, but without the commercials, we don't have a Sven show.
I think the problem with that with people is probably, and maybe I'm wrong, but I if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Most people that complain about commercials didn't grow up watching commercial TV.
Correct.
And I'm not one of those guys that sit there and go, in my day we had to watch commercials and we loved it. No, we had to suffer through commercials. That's when you ran to the bathroom. That's when you got your sandwich or your snack or your pop or whatever. I don't think these guys understand that's what, and you can't just go click.
Correct.
5 seconds, click. Yeah. No, you have to sit through, St. Jude and Shaq and who the hell else.
Part of the appeal of the show is the cheesy commercial.
Oh yeah, because we
grew up. I mean, if you watched WFLD Channel 32 as a kid in Chicago, or you watched WGN as a kid with the Cubs games and stuff, all of the. I mean, Gary Coleman got his start as a kid as a car pitchman for Chicago car dealers. I mean, Chicago's known for its oddball commercials.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Eagle Woman. And so, and that car can save you money if the door falls off.
They used that commercial for decades.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just part of the shtick, it's part of the whole experience.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, go, like you said, go get something to eat. Go.
Right.
Or, but if you're that angry about it, get a DVR.
Yeah.
You can DVR Sven.
Now, my only problem with the commercials is a lot of them are geared towards a demographic that's a little bit older than we are,
Correct.
and it makes my back hurt.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, there's this pill now.
I'm just thankful the one with what's his name getting in the walk-in
Oh,
shower.
Pat-
With Debbie,
Pat Boone?
Pat Boone, the Pat Boone shower one.
I
it's a
never
bit
wanted to see
disturbing.
that much
I
of
don't need
Pat
to
Boone
see that
ever.
again.
Even when he was young, I never wanted
Correct.
to see that much of Pat Boone.
But yeah, you get. I mean, he's limited by. I mean, it is a shoestring. I mean, it's MeTV, although it's national, it's a shoestring
Yeah.
budget. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like it's a cable network.
Yeah.
And so, he's got to do what he can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be interesting. I mean, we've talked before. It would be interesting if there was a way for him to show more movies that are in the public domain.
Yeah.
But that maybe he can't. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's a good reason why.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
because this is a network.
Yeah.
And there's certain rules, like what you were saying earlier about how he has to show these things a certain amount of times per year.
Correct.
And there's probably a clause that says he can't show like why has he, to the best of my knowledge, he's never shown Night of the Living Dead.
Hmm.
Now,
Except in Sven Tooney sped up. So when Sven Tooney's like,
oh yeah, you were
first
you
or
were
second
talking about that.
episode,
Yeah, you were talking
they
about
did
that.
Night of the Living Dead, but they sped it up.
Right,
That's
right.
the only time.
And there's a lot of other movies that are in the public domain. I mean, our good buddy Victor von Sekatron shows public domain horror movies all the time.
Right. And you
on
should
YouTube.
check him out.
Yes, check him out. Weirdo Rama.
Weird around. Yeah.
Yeah, all the commercials like the what was that one with the kid who was a long Chevrolet, and there was like a kid, like a newsy kid, selling the newspaper.
Correct.
Yeah, you remember that one?
Yep.
And he got pied in the face.
Yes.
And Empire Carpet.
Oh God, Empire
Yeah.
classic. Vampire carpets.
Right.
Now we have Luna.
Mhm.
77321. I mean,
Yeah.
the commercials work, by the way.
Yeah. But we'll never forget.
Correct.
We'll never forget the Empire
No.
phone number.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the movie. Jack Palance is always great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If Jack Palance is in a bad movie, it's not Jack Palance's fault.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Hey, he had to put food on the table.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I used to even watch the Believe It or Not
Oh yeah.
show.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Palance.
Yeah.
One of my early crushes in life was it Polly? Jack Palance. Polly. So it was like his daughter or his wife or who knows. I don't know what she was, but
Was she on Ripley's?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
she was cute. I'm like, she looked like Jack. Like, she had like fangs and
Right.
widow's peak or name, but yeah.
She had that really breathy way of talking.
Yes.
But yeah, Sven. Yeah, I was sad when he was off the air for a while.
Mm-hmm.
When he came back, of course. I started watching him again. And yeah, it's really still the same, basically the same show.
Yeah. The only thing different is now I've watched well you and I have done it a time or two,
Yeah.
but I've watched a lot of like early Sven stuff when he was much younger.
Mm-hmm.
The absolute gonzo nature of that show, because it almost seemed like it was airing live,
Yeah.
and just the constant stuff that would happen to him that would throw him off track, but he'd try to get back on track and stuff. That's the only thing I miss. But I know at our age, we don't want to be interrupted like that. But at his age, you got to kind of slow down a little bit. But
Well, I think he's an experimenter. I mean, he's tried things. It hasn't, so he did Sven Surround for a lot. When MST 3000 became popular, then he had Sven Surround.
Yeah.
Where they would insert funny noises and occasionally you still on the episodes you still have those in there. He'll throw those in there. So I mean,
out of nowhere, like the doing,
right. Yeah. So that's what's great. But I mean, I love the fact now that they've lengthened the show, you get the classic Sven bits, and so they can show things from the '90s.
Yeah.
I don't think they have access to the son of Svengoolie stuff from the 70s. But
it's probably tied up in legalese.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and when he had when he was showing older classics, old Universal classics, those movies were short, so he had plenty of wiggle room to just go bonkers.
Yeah.
Even with commercials and theme song and closing theme. He had plenty of wiggle room, but with newer movies from the 50s, they were a little bit longer. So yeah, he has to really compact what he can get away with. But the new extra long time slot really helps his show out. I think.
Yeah,
I agree.
I also like that he's expanded. I love the comic books that he's done. He's expanded. He partnered with DC Comics, so he got to star with the Justice League.
Yep.
And then they just did another standalone. I guess it's a standalone. I don't know if there's gonna be more, where sort of a time traveling one, which is where I actually didn't realize that Kerwin was prehistoric.
Yeah.
Until we got his origin story.
We did a video of that, so I'll put it at the end of this one if you guys want to go back and check it out.
Yeah. And so I just like, he's just expanding. So I mean, I think it's great for him. It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Yeah.
That he's become this famous nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
And and the haters will hate, and if they hate too loud, Rich Coase himself will get on there and set them straight.
Yeah.
So that's the best part. I mean, that's the worst one was somebody was complaining. Oh, it cracked me up. He had shown two versions of the Raven. So he did the Lugosi, the black and white, what is it, 40s one, and then of course the Roger Corman, one of my favorite movies of all time. And so someone was complaining, you just showed this movie 3 weeks ago, and he's like, do you watch the show? Because that was a different. So he himself got on there and said, that was a different Raven movie.
Right.
And so I think it's funny when he gets on there and kind of calls people out on their complaints. So I think the only complaint we have is I hope he does more gigs so that we don't have to see the Pinky and the Brain one anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's that's the only.
I mean, we love Pinky and the Brain, but
yeah,
I'm hoping even he's tired of showing the stuff from Pinky and the Brain.
Correct. So I'm sure he'll be making new appearances. So hopefully those will be on the show soon.
Speaking of new appearances, Mike, you want to talk about the Sven Squad?
Yeah, let's talk about the Sven Squad.
Tell us your thoughts on the Sven Squad.
Well, I think they're all good. And, I know some people have complained about certain ones, but they're all really talented people. My personal favorite is Svengoolie.
Why is that?
Because she's hot.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah.
No. I just
of course it'd be you. Yeah.
I think she's funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Nostalgia Ferrati was funny.
Yeah, he's great.
Although Imp, and we've got him here on the cup.
Yeah.
The Imp they've been doing so. You should check out on the TikTok and or the Reels on Facebook. So the Sven Squad does constant shorts now, and it is hilarious on the shorts. You give him he did one where he was hiding in Sven's coffin, and so I think it'll just take time, and they're all. I mean, Nostalgia Ferratu, he's been in the business. I mean, he's from Second City. And he's been a comedian. Radio personality in Chicago for 30 years.
Right.
So, I mean, he's got 30 years experience on the other two. And so, but I like Svengoolie when they had her sing that one time. I think she'd be great for adding to the music. They even added Doug Graves, his pianist, his accompanist, and his daughter, Anita Exorcist is a saxophonist, so she appears on the show. So I mean, it's a family, and so, but the poor Imp guy just gets no love, and
but he's good.
He's funny, he's got.
I think they all. What was that? I think they all work in their own way.
Yeah.
For the bits they do, they all work in their own way.
Yeah, they play off each other.
Yeah.
And somebody pointed out tonight on one of the streams, because I was monitoring the streams while we were watching, and I think it is an in joke. So there's like, does Nostalgia Ferratu's makeup change every week?
Yeah,
and it does, and it does.
Yeah.
And then Imp. his wings are either upside down or the other way each time he appears.
Mhm.
So I think there's just little in jokes that they have.
Yeah.
There's this ongoing joke about the condition of Gwengoolie's gloves,
Yeah. Yeah.
which they actually made a joke about on the show.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so they're paying attention to the stuff said about them.
Right.
They even did a short recently where Imp and Gwengoolie complained about how everybody loves Nostalgia Ferratu, but not them.
Yeah.
And so, I enjoy Keep Up the Reels. Those three
Yeah.
are hilarious on
Yeah.
the reels. And
Mhm.
so, I
Well, and that's the other thing about his long lasting appeal too is he's embraced this other realm that a lot of people might not, and that's reels, TikTok, and whatever else they have out there. I mean, he knows that this is a way to get people to notice
correct.
too. He's not afraid to like, oh, I don't want to do that because that's not my thing. Nah, he's embraced it.
Well, and even with the Sven Squad, I mean, even the actual contest itself, which we weren't sure where it was going for a good year and a half. But the fact that he, landed on three, Imp, I don't think he's Second City. He might be Second City, but he's a comedian out of Chicago. Gwengoolie's an actress, and she has her own YouTube
It
channel,
says got a
things like that.
YouTube
Yeah.
channel, yeah.
And so, and of course, Nostalgia Ferratu's been around forever. But
Yeah.
now that they're, now he's saying, well, let's just let's send in funny videos
Yeah.
for Sven Squad. And so he knows how to, if you get your funny video, you might get your face on TV.
That's a
Right.
perfect way to.
Yeah.
I mean, the man knows whether it was him or whoever. They know what they're doing because it's like if you send in a video, you're gonna sit there. We watch for Victor.
Correct.
Victor sent in a video. We're watching for his, so it works.
Yeah.
Even with us old timers.
Same thing with what people make when they do the letter segment, the mail segment, which was my favorite thing as a kid. I used to love it.
Oh yeah.
And so now there was somebody on one of the Sven Facebook groups I'm on. She sent in, she and her husband sent in little coffins, and they showed them
that's
one
cool.
week. And so
Yeah, my oldest had artwork posted on his website years ago too, which thrilled her to know her 12-year-old self to know him.
Yeah,
She drew his coffin, right?
Yeah.
I remember
It
that
turned out
picture.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a whole package. It's a whole lot of stuff going on. And so I mean, I guess my message to the haters is if you don't like it, then
It costs nothing.
Yeah.
To keep your mouth shut.
Right. Right. And he's been around for a long time. He knows what he's trust Rich Cozy. He knows what he's doing. I mean, clearly,
Yeah.
how successful he is.
Yep.
And so that would be my message for the haters. But I think the Sven Squad's been a good addition. I think it's been, and he's had other. And I always forget the name of the puppet. What was the puppet?
Oh, the one that his producers hated.
Yeah. It was the creepy little Sven puppet.
Kerwin's the chicken.
I can't remember its name. But
that's how memorable he was.
Yeah. So I mean, he's had ones that have lasted and haven't lasted, and so and Kerwin was not liked on the internet sites for a while, and now he's a beloved. Oh my God, they changed that. They fixed the puppet, and oh my God, thought the world was going to end because they slightly changed the puppet.
Yeah,
and
Kerwin's a classic example of like how. We grew up with Tombstone, and as far as I'm concerned, he could be it. But then Kerwin, the weird little puppet guy, and then Kerwin comes along, and I'm like, yeah, but it's not Tombstone. But now it's like Kerwin's hilarious because just the way that Sven self-deprecates using Kerwin is
correct.
Is great.
Yeah. So I mean, and I mean, the door segment at the end of the show. I mean, there's just little things. You always have to pause, try to read the end credits.
Yeah,
there's always something funny at the end.
Yeah,
that they typically will screenshot on Facebook when I can't read it. So on the TV, but it's a great. I mean, he's expanded. It's just he's pretty much knows what he. I mean, he really knows what he's doing. He really, you can't say anything else. And he's a nice guy, like I said. So.
Well, speaking of knowing what you're doing, and we don't, I hit on this idea a couple weeks ago about doing something like this, and we're running it on. We've got issues right now. This particular review or reaction video. If people want to see us do reactions to episodes of Svengoolie, I'll set something up. I'll create a new channel, or I'll just continue on this. So if you guys folks want to see more stuff about Sven and stuff that we've discovered and our reactions to his movies, let us know in the comments, and we'll be more than happy to do this. I love doing this kind of table discussion. It beats talking to myself.
And give us suggestions for a name for the Svengoolie.
Yeah,
The
that's a good idea.
Sven segment, yeah.
Yeah, we want to do like a Sven review, like I just said. So, but we're trying to come up with a name for it. We only got one that we only kind of semi like. We're not going to talk about it. So if you can go with something, put it in the comments and let us know what and we'll let everybody know who had the idea we liked the most.
Yeah. And we should definitely plug the show itself. So if you go to Svengoolie.com, you can get the Sven newsletter. So I get it mailed every week. There's a synopsis of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You get to find out what movies are coming up the next month. There's photos, there's games, and then he also has the Sven store, clearly, which we are all buying a lot of.
I don't know what.
So a lot of merch. The 40th. I hope he does a 50th anniversary box like he did for the 40th, which was really fun to get in the mail. And so he's really capitalized on the merch.
Yeah.
I got to get my blanket. That's my next purchase.
Sven blanket.
My
I
Sven
used to
blanket.
have a shirt like that, but it shrunk.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Mine did too.
Yeah. You have to wash them cold.
Yeah.
Air dry.
I don't think that's exactly why it shrank.
By large.
Yeah, I gave mine to a friend of mine who's much smaller than I am, and it fits her just fine.
Oh,
so.
okay.
And she was thrilled. So
Yeah.
it was the it came from Berwyn with the chicken.
Yep.
All right. Well, unless anybody's got anything else to say, for We've Got Issues. I'm Paul,
I'm Mark.
I'm Mike.
and We've Got Issues.
Tune in every week to Sven, Saturday nights, Me TV.